Welcome to the Boneyard with Steve Robertson. As always, I am your good friend and host, Steve Robertson, here on the magnificent Monday edition of The Yard. We're going to record this in two sessions. As I speak to you this morning, we have not met with Jeff Lebby yet. We'll do that here in a couple of hours. So we'll get a lot of the show done, and then we'll go hear what Lebby has to say. I don't expect to get much in the way of injury updates today, but there is some concern, I guess, about Isaac Smith and Blake Shapen. So we'll see what he has to say. If it were me, because I'm a competitor, I wouldn't divulge much either. And Labby traditionally on Mondays has said we're going to let the availability report speak for us. That typically comes out on Wednesday. So anything that you can do to kind of have the element of surprise, I think is a great thing. So we'll kind of wait and see what happens. But, it was a great weekend in Starkville. Not a great weekend on the football field. But I want to address a couple things before we get too deep into the weeds here. The first thing that I will say is I don't know who was involved with this incident with Dave Portnoy from Barstool Sports. It doesn't matter to me what your opinion is about Barstool Sports. I love Brandon Walker. I consider him a friend. Of course, he was on the beat with us for many years, and then, we stayed in contact for the most part. Of course, now we're both a lot busier guys, but I'm very, very supportive of Brandon Walker. I know some of you don't like the language that he uses. That's certainly your right, but it's also his right to use whatever language he sees fit. But I know Dave Portnoy can be a polarizing figure, and no matter where you come down on that, the incident that happened in the Cotton District during one of those pizza reviews is deplorable, absolutely deplorable. It is not anything that we support. We wouldn't feel that way about any other group of people, and some people feel that it's somewhat justified, and you're wrong. There are some rumors out there that this person was not a Mississippi State fan, did not live in Starkville, and I hope those things are correct. But even if they're not, that's a very unfortunate incident. It should never have happened. It is embarrassing to the rest of us because people can't differentiate and understand who's who, and we don't know for sure either. I've heard some rumors about the individual, but I don't know the motivation behind it. It is not a great thing. It has not painted Mississippi State nor Starkville in a great light. I live here. I am a Bulldog through and through, and anybody that embarrasses our city and our university are not friends to Mississippi State. And I would say, based on some of the comments that were used during that exchange, that person's not a friend to humanity at all. Again, you're certainly entitled to your political opinions. I don't begrudge you that. But that's exceptionally poor. And for some people to suggest that Dave Portnoy deserved that, you're wrong about that too. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. I know some other people out there felt like it's not a big deal. It is a big deal. It is a big deal. Words have power. And anything that reflects negatively on Starkville and on Mississippi State are things that we're going to take offense to. It should never, ever, ever get to that point, no matter how you feel about somebody. And that's the thing about this social media culture in which we live. We get the feeling that we know people, and that if we disagree with them, that we have the right to say things to or about them that are uncouth, shall we say. But that person does not speak for Starkville. They do not speak for Mississippi State, and they certainly don't speak for us here at the Boneyard. I don't know how I feel about Dave Portnoy either. I think at times he can be somewhat irritating, but that in no way justifies what happened. And I want to get that out of the way right out of the gate. Okay, we're absolutely not supportive of that. If you know who this individual is, I'm told they've been identified, and I'm told that there are some repercussions that may be coming. I am very much a free speech advocate, but I also think that there are certain things that we just don't do and say in public. And, it's so interesting, too. I'm not going to chase this for very long, but, we would not be in defense of that over most groups of people. If somebody said something that's considered a racial or religious slur, we would not be in defense of that, period. And so I think it's important for us to acknowledge those type of things and to speak out about them, period. Get your punctuation in today. But I wanted to address that before we got into our game recap. And, of course, we'll talk a lot about the Diamond Dog Classic. We'll have a cool top 10 list for you, and then we'll get back with you on what Jeff Lebby had to say today. Let's thank our friends at Bulldog Burger Company, longtime sponsors for the show. I love Bulldog Burger Company. I have for a long time. I will partake in some Bulldog Burger Company this week before I leave for Columbia, Missouri. You should too. 3 great locations to serve you. University Drive here in Stark Vegas, Gloucester Street there in Tupelo, Lake Harper Drive in the Ridge and Flowwood area. Have the spring rolls as your appetizer. They'll make you and everybody around you better looking. In addition to that, find your own favorites, right? There's a lot of great things to choose from on that menu. If everybody else in the family is feeling like a hamburger, let them partake, and maybe you can kind of branch out a little bit. Maybe have that BLT salad. I prefer it grilled. You may like it fried. I'm not here to judge. Okay? But be sure to get that chocolate shake to go. You can ride that ride home with a smile. Bulldog Burger Company, the place where people go to meet, M-E-A-T. All right, let's get into it, much as we may not want to. Mississippi State and Georgia, not the result we wanted. I expected it to be a much closer game than it proved to be. And we'll kind of explain when and how kind of some of this got away from us. But Bulldogs win the toss and receive. You know, we love having the ball first. Offensive-minded coaches often think that way. Kirby Smart's a defensive-minded coach. I'm sure he was perfectly okay. And they did manage the end of the first half and the beginning of the second half to gain some real separation in this game. Bulldogs get the touchback on the kickoff. 1st and 10 from our 25. Blake Shapen runs off the right side for 6. And on 2nd and 4, Booth up the middle for 10. And we talked about that last week. I mean, Georgia giving up less than 100 yards a game on the ground. State was going to have to run the football to make this a competitive game, and it was very apparent from the get-go. That was Jeff Lebby's game plan. On 1st and 10, Booth up the middle for 1, and then we lose a pair on 2nd and 9. And just when you think that perhaps that the drive is going to stall out here, Shapen finds Brennan Thompson across the middle at the Georgia 49 for 11 yards to move the sticks. And there was some things on film that we talked about last week that they were somewhat susceptible to passes across the middle. And it appears that State identified that in film study as well. They utilized it here to move the sticks. 1st and 10. Shapen then sacked for a loss of 5 yards. So you're behind the sticks again. 2nd and 15. Get it out to Sam West here. You know, Sam West, of course, transferred in, and a lot of people kind of wondered how he would factor in. I think he is a tight end of the future. He's had a couple of big catches this year, this being one of them. All of a sudden, he rumbles for a dozen yards. That makes it a very manageable 3rd and 3. We get it out to Anthony Evans for 7 to move the sticks to the Georgia 35. Back to the ground game. Fluff gets 5 off the right side. Again, 2nd medium here. We swing it out to Seydoux out there in the flats. He fights ahead and makes it a 3rd and 1 situation. And then Fluff gets loose for 15. Really good job there by your offensive line. Now 1st and 10 at the Georgia 11. Shapen keeps off the left side for a pair to make it 2nd and 8 from the Georgia 9. Shapen then runs right for 5. And they go back and kind of look at this thing, and everything is cool. And on 3rd and 3, Camario comes in, runs at the middle for the touchdown. Extra point is good. Now it is a 7-0 Bulldog lead, and people are excited. They were. We don't get the touchback here, and you think it's going to cost us. It really doesn't. Returned 19 yards to the Georgia 23, so it works out even better than a touchback in that respect. And I don't know how much those 2 yards mattered in this drive, but Georgia puts together a bit of an answer here, and it felt like a win holding them to a field goal here. But 1st and 10 at their 23. Chauncey Bowens, who is really more of the power back, he's more of a one-cut type runner, not quite as explosive as Frazier, as you guys saw over the course of the game, but they complement each other really well. Bowens off the left side for 7. On 2nd and 3, back to Bowens for 4. That moves the sticks. 1st and 10 from the Georgia 34. They get it out to London Humphreys, and really good play design here. They kind of fake the bubble, and the tight end just kind of slips out like he's lined up out there to be a perimeter blocker. Releases. He's wide open. 36 yards on the play. It's now 1st and 10 at our 30. Rodon loses a yard here. Jerron Manning knifes in, makes a good play there. 2nd and 11. Gunnar Stockton incomplete to Williams. People continue to test Kelly Jones. You lay it up there and you try to get a matchup that you want. I don't know how anybody could watch film of Mississippi State and say, hey, this is a mismatch we can exploit. Kelly Jones potentially playing his way into the first round. Mel Kiper said yesterday that Kelly Jones could be the first corner taken in the draft if he elects to come out. 3rd and 11, it's incomplete across the middle to Zachariah Branch. State pretty good coverage there. 4th and 11, the field goal is good. So it's a 7-3 ball game as Georgia gets ready to kick it back. We have a chance here to get some real separation. And we do some things that kind of impede our own progress. We get the touchback, and then there's a snap infraction on Cannon Boone. So again, we're behind the sticks again. That's 3 times already we've been behind the sticks. On that 2nd and 12, 2nd and 15, and now 1st and 15. We can't do things, we can't shoot ourselves in the foot. And on 1st and 15, Shapen keeps off the right side for 5, makes it 2nd and 10. Fluffton gets 5, and it's 3rd and 5. Okay, this is manageable. We got to be able to make a play here. However, we get it out to Anthony Evans, who is short of the sticks, and then we get dinged for, I think it was hands to the face there. So they decline the penalty and take it down, makes it 4th and 2. Ethan Pulliam has been outstanding for us this year. This was not one of his better efforts. Just a 35-yard punt. Rolled dead at the 32-yard line. Georgia puts together a big drive, but the Bulldogs stand tall in the end of this thing. And again, a chance for us to come back from this and make this a 2-possession game. 1st and 10 from their 32. They get it across to Dylan Bell, who I thought played pretty well for Georgia. 15 yards on the reception. 1st and 10, they get it out to Branch. You know at some point they would. 14 yards there. They're already across midfield. 1st and 10 at our 39. And it felt like a hot knife through butter at this point. They give it to Bowens up the middle for 4, makes it 2nd and 6, and then Nate Frazier, who I thought had a tremendous game for Georgia. 31 yards. Jerron Manning with a big tackle there to save the touchdown and make them play another down. Again, Gunnar Stockton elects to throw it up towards Kelly Jones. Kelly Jones with the PBU. You would think, again, at the beginning of the year, people are like, well, Kelly Jones is playing well, but we haven't played anybody. Well, look at who we played now. Kelly Jones is just that dude. 2nd and 4, Dylan Bell, the receiver, on a bit of an end-around play, runs for 1 yard, and it's fumbled. Trevion Williams on the recovery, forced by Isaac Smith. They review it, and the play stands. And I'll be honest with you, I think it could have gone either way. I think the fact that you get the call on the field made all the difference because I don't think there was a ton of evidence. It did look like the ball was moving a little bit before his knee was down. Nevertheless, the officials give Mississippi State the ball, so it's 1st and 10 at the State 3. We put together a little bit here to kind of give us an opportunity to flip the field. And you think, man, it's going to be difficult to go 97 yards against this Georgia defense. That proved to be the case. But maybe it was efficient enough. Maybe. Booth up the middle for 2. And on 2nd and 8, we take a shot to Anthony Evans, and they flagged them for holding, as they should have. Anthony Evans really had no chance to catch his football. Georgia was intent on not letting him influence that play, but you take the shot there. So now it's 1st and 10 at the 15. Booth off the left side for just 1, makes it 2nd and 9. We try to get it out to Jordan Mosley, and it's incomplete. Raylan Wilson in Shapen's face a little bit there. 3rd and 9. We're complete to Brennan Thompson for 10 yards. Very similar to that first drive. You go up, you work across the middle right at the sticks, and then you kind of fight for that remaining yard. We do. Now it's 1st and 10, and Blake Shapen is sacked for a loss of 14 yards. Again, here we are again behind the sticks. Again. We're not winning on 1st down. 2nd and 24, Shapen runs off the left side for 4. And on 3rd and 20, Shapen up the middle, and in his hit from behind, we're going to put ourselves in a position to punt here, right? That's what we're hoping. Get out around the 30. Maybe you can't get a 1st down, but put yourselves in a position to flip the field. But instead, we're hit from behind, and KJ Bolden jumps on it. We also get flagged for holding there. Of course, they decline that and take the penalty. And it's a 7-3 ball game as Georgia takes over with just a few seconds to go on the first quarter clock. Gunnar Stockton gets it out the branch for a 1-yard loss. Brian Lanier making a great play there. That's your final play of the first quarter. So we get to the first quarter, and we expected to at least be in pretty good position here because Georgia's been kind of slow starters. In the second quarter, they take the lead for good. You never like to hear that phrase, right? Second 11, it's incomplete to Lawson Lucky. And obviously there was some things that happened with him later in this ball game that we'll get to. But third and 11, they get it out to Ulysses Williams. Big play here. Big play. Makes it a first and goal situation to 4. And then Bowens, again, the power back, powers in for the score. Extra point is good. It's 10-7. And again, we've had 2 drives with the lead and have been unable to do anything with them. And again, some of that's just getting behind the sticks. We're just not good enough. And Levy said it himself, we're not good enough to constantly be in 1st and 15. You know, Coach, we got to find a way to fix that. All right, 1st and 10 after the touchback. Fluff off the left side for 7, kind of getting back to what we came here to do. On 2nd and 3, Shapen keeps for just 1, makes it a 3rd and 2, and then Fluff gets 5. Still not 100%, but he's playing hard for your Bulldogs. 1st and 10 from the 38. Bothwell again with 5, makes it 2nd and 5. We go back to Fluff. They stack him up here. And on 3rd and 5, we try to get it out to Anthony Evans, and it's broken up. Here comes the punt. Nathan Tyson with a 47-yard punt. It's fair caught at the Georgia 10. I think you can live with that. But defensively, not a great series coming up here for your Bulldogs. Nate Frazier off the left side for 2, makes it 2nd and 8. From the Georgia 12, Frazier again for 7, makes it a 3rd and 1 situation, and Gunnar Stockton keeps to move the sticks. 1st and 10 now from the 21. They go back to Frazier up the middle for 9 yards here. Guy's really good. 2nd 1, back to the power back, Bowens, who moves the sticks. 1st and 10 out at the Georgia 31. They get it out to Oscar Delp. 29 yards, basically right across the middle. They get him paired up with Zachary Tillman, who banged up his shoulder too. I'm interested to see what he looks like come Wednesday on the availability report. 1st and 10. They get it out to Branch, 7 yards here on the play, makes it 2nd and 3. And again, these run plays are starting to be, instead of being 2 and 3 yards, are consistently 5, 6, and 7. Bowens gets 6, makes it 1st and 10, and we make a good play here. Jeray Bledsoe and Deontay Anderson really do a nice job. Gunnar Stockton gets back to the line of scrimmage to kind of negate the sack, but it goes down as a no gain on the run. 2nd 10, Nate Frazier off the left side for 9. 3rd and 1, Stockton up the middle for 5. Makes it a 1st and 10 situation from our 13. And nothing fancy about this at all, guys. Just very balanced offense where you have to account for the quarterback run. Stockton up the middle for 5, makes it 2nd and 5. And they get it out to Oscar Delp for the score. Extra point is good. And now it's 17-7. And again, it feels like this is getting away from us. There's really no question about it. All right, touchback first. No, excuse me. They kick the ball out of bounds here. 1st and 10 at our 35. Let's go make it hurt, right? Blake Shapen across the middle to Seydoux for 8. Makes it 2nd to Booth. Kind of getting in the mix here. Runs off the right side for 10. Now we're already out near midfield. 1st and 10 across midfield at the Georgia 47. We get it out to Anthony Evans, who gets loose for 19 yards. And here we are, 1st and 10. Again, doing the things that are not conducive to winning. You're on the move, and there's a false start on Zach Owens. Makes it a 1st and 15. So again, for the 4th consecutive drive, State finds themselves behind the sticks. Camario Taylor runs up the middle for 3. And on 2nd 12, we take a shot to Anthony Evans, and it really wasn't close. And I think in some ways, too, if you don't feel it, it's better to just throw it long and incomplete to try to force it in there. 3rd and 12. Shapen completes it out to Aiden Williams. We get 7, makes it a 4th and 5 from their 23. And so I don't know. Listen, I can't sit here and defend all this, okay? I'm kicking the field goal here, or at least attempting the field goal. I've got a lot of faith in Kyle Ferry. You make this field goal, it's a one-score game, and a big part of coaching is to exert pressure on your opponent. and all of a sudden you make it a one-score game rather than a two-score game and give them the football back here, you don't put them in a situation where they can relax, and we do. Now, I'm critical of the decision to go for it here. I'm not critical of the play call. We had a really good play dialed up. Shapen makes a good pass out to Fluff, and Fluff tries to run before he has it, and it's a drop. He's going to easily get the first down unless he just stumbles at his feet. But it's a turnover on downs. And listen, I get it if you're Jeff Lebby, you play to win, but discretion's a better part of valor. We don't convert here, and then next thing you know, we're in a scenario where we're fighting for our lives in this game. All right, they take over at their 23 with just over 2 minutes to play. 1st and 10, let's see here. Yeah, Phillips up the middle for 6, and on 2nd and 4, it's a false start, so it backs him up a little bit, makes it 2nd and 9 right at the 2-minute timeout. It's incomplete to Lawson Lucky, and Jerron Manning absolutely blows him up here. And, yes, it was targeting. I think it says something about Jerron Manning. He'd go out there to check on Lucky. But it was tough. It was. Trying to make a play, can't really get your head around. Sometimes your instincts take over. And so we lose Manning for the second half. 1st and 10 now from the Georgia 39. And again, you think about that. I mean, he's going to catch it either way. He's going to catch it, so it's not like we couldn't make a play on the ball there. All right, 1st and 10 at their 39. It's incomplete, and they get us for PI here. But it's one of those shorter ones. So it's a spot foul just for 5 yards. Now it's 1st and 10 at their 44 with $1:47 to go. I'm just trying to hope for a field goal here. Field goal at least keeps it a 2-score game. Stockton up the middle for 7. And on 2nd and 3, he gets it out to Branch, who gets 4. They're working clock here, working 2-minute drill. 1st and 10 from our 45. They get it out to Noah Thomas for 7. Makes it 2nd and 3. And then Stockton is incomplete. 3rd and 3, incomplete again. And so it's 4th and 3. We take the time out here. And this is when we do all this silliness, right? So they have the offense out there. Then they're going to punt. And then they run all this stuff back and forth. And then they finally decide to run a play, or so we think. And they hard count us, and we fall for it, and it gives them a first down. Check mark there for Kirby. It was a very significant play in this ballgame. If they end up punting here, we at least can get to the half 17-7. Instead, we give them a first down here. Then they get it out to Branch for 14 yards. It's now inside the red zone. It's incomplete to Delp. Gillette with a nice rush off the edge there into Stockton's face. 2nd and 10. They get it to Branch, who gets loose for the touchdown. And under 15 seconds to go in the half. It's just one of those things, man. You mismanage this. You did. You go for it on 4th down when you probably shouldn't. Then you have a bad penalty that helps. And let's just kind of call it for what it is. I thought we got out-coached a little bit there in that scenario with all the shenanigans with the punt team. We didn't handle that well. It was very undisciplined. We get the ball back, and basically, we take one. We throw one pass and then take a knee. Maybe you're just trying to catch them slipping a little bit there. But, it's 24-7 at the half. And against a team the quality of Georgia, I think we all felt like how this was going to end up. We just didn't know what the final score was going to be. All right, time for the second half recap, brought to you by Close with Blair. That's CLOSE with Blair, BLAIR. You guys are using Blair too. He tells me he's going to close a couple loans from you guys here in the next couple of weeks. You could be next to make the dream of home ownership come true for you. Dial 601-500-2344, 601-500-2344. That's directly to Blair. That's not a call center, not a receptionist. You can text or call that number. That's his personal cell phone. Just save it in your phone as Mortgage Guy, because you never know when you're going to need a mortgage guy, or gal for that matter. Blair's the name to know, though. 25 years of experience, and got his own little business now, man. And it's grown. Yeah, it's incredible. Working on the fairway side of things now. So no matter where Blair goes, the same level of service goes with him. He's going to get you in a good deal. Yeah, he is. He's going to be your advocate with underwriting. So whether you're looking for your first home, your next home, or your retirement home, or perhaps that game day condo, which could be more affordable than you think, Blair Chandler at Close of Blair, that's the way to go. Blair Chandler. All right, second half. Our worst fears come true here because you know as well as I do, we felt like the game was over at the half. And so like, man, if they can go 2 for 1 here, get a score before the half, and they did a great job eating up the clock and really removing all possibility of a comeback. And you think, you know what, if they go out and score a touchdown to open the second half, some of us might want to consider seeking our entertainment elsewhere. That's exactly what happened. We get the touchback here, and you know they're going to run the football, and why not, right? And so Bowen's off the left side for 2, and on 2nd and 8, they get it out to Oscar Delp for 4. Makes it a 3rd and 4, a chance to get off the field. We can't get it done. They get it to Noah Thomas for 7. And on 1st and 10, Frazier up the middle for 3, and then gashes us for 59 yards. It was kind of reminiscent of that touchdown run against Arkansas, when Arkansas did that against us to get some separation in that ball game. Fortunately, we were able to come back because they're so bad defensively. No such luck against Georgia. The extra point is good. It is now a 31-7 game. We've had all halftime to kind of figure out, okay, how do we climb back into this thing? Well, our best efforts yielded 7 yards. 1st and 10 from our 25 after the touchback. Fluff off the right side for 2. We get it out to Sadie for 5, makes it a 3rd and 3. And then we try to get it to Anthony Evans. Gabe Harris Jr. in the backfield there forces the errant throw. Makes it 4th and 3. Ethan Pulliam, 42-yard punt. Just a 2-yard return. Stayed a good job of coverage. Cyrus Reyes and Ethan Myers on the tackle. And if there was ever any doubt about how this was going to end up, it was removed on this next drive as Georgia scores another second-half touchdown. 1st and 10 from their 28. Dwight Phillips is stacked up for a 4-yard loss. We got him behind the sticks. Tony Mitchell with a stick there, and may see Tony start this weekend on the road at Missouri. 2nd and 14. Stockton gets loose for a dozen, makes it a 3rd and 2. You think, okay, let's pinch right here, but instead they take a shot. Noah Thomas gets it and just kind of weaves back and forth through the secondary, and it's a touchdown. It's now first. You know, it's just one of those things you look at. It's like when I begin to work through all this stuff, and we think about the things that you do to lose ball games. I think you had a dejected defense that did the best they could in the first half, and they were worn down here in the second half. And then without Jerron Manning and Isaac Smith, it made it very difficult to get guys on the ground. Extra points good. It's now 38-7. Camario takes over a quarterback here. As you guys are aware, Blake got hammered that last time. Blindside again. All right, 1st and 10 from our 25. We get it out to Anthony Evans, and it's a 2-yard loss. Just trying to kind of get him in a rhythm here, kind of get him comfortable. 2nd and 12, again behind the sticks. We get 14 yards here, and it's a 1st down. Then we take a shot down the field to Brennan Thompson. It's not there. And on 2nd and 10, we try to get it out to Aiden Williams. It's incomplete. 3rd and 10. Camario runs off the left side. They start getting some pressure, and he just takes off and goes. And I think that's the element, considering our offensive line issues, that makes Camario Taylor such a favorable option, is he's more likely to be able to make a play like this, or maybe Blake Shapen is not. And I'm not saying Blake's not athletic, but he's not the athlete Camario Taylor is, and I don't know how anybody could argue otherwise. Camario loose for 23, makes it 1st and 10 at the Georgia 40. We take a shot here to Anthony Evans, and it's another PI. It's not even close. 1st and 10 now at their 25. Camario at the middle for 5, makes it a 2nd and 5 as we approach the red zone. Anthony Evans on the end around gets 4, makes it 3rd and 1. Booth up the middle for 5 to move the sticks. Now 1st and 10 at the Georgia 11. Booth off the left side for 3, and on 2nd and 7, Camario keeps for a yard, makes it 3rd and 6, and you start thinking, okay, This is 4-down territory. That proved to be the case. Camario, no gain on 3rd down, and on 4th and 6, he gets it out to Seydu, who fights towards the goal line, but it's a 1st and goal situation at the 1. Fluff up the middle, gets nothing, and on 2nd 1, Camario keeps off the right side. Touchdown. Extra point's good. Kickoff is a touchback. And Bulldogs, again, the game's over now. It's 38-14, but all of a sudden the defense begins to kind of find some second wind here. Dylan Bell off the left side for a dozen. And on 1st and 10 from the Georgia 37, they take a shot to London Humphreys. It's incomplete. 2nd 10, Nate Frazier off the right side for 13. Gets the ball out to midfield. And on 1st and 10, Phillips, again, they're just kind of using their depth here. Runs off the right side for a pair. 2nd and 8. We take a shot down the field to Zachariah Branch. It's caught at the 49-yard line for just 4 yards. Got my notes wrong here. 3rd and 4. Stockton's incomplete. This is the shot, and it's broken up by Trevion Williams, who bats it down at the line. 4th and 4, they take a delay of game penalty, and the punt's away. Anthony Evans fair catches it at the 9. This is one of those drives here. Camario's not going to be perfect. Everybody needs to understand that. This is one of those drives here where we felt like we had a little juice and then just couldn't finish it. 1st and 10 from our 9. We get it out to Seydu, who gets 10 yards. 1st and 10 from the 19. We're incomplete across the middle to Anthony Evans. Raylan Wilson, who had a good game for Georgia, breaks it up. 2nd 10, Camario keeps ahead for 3, and on 3rd and 7, we get it out to Fluff for just 2 yards. And, that's going to happen. Right? We take the check down there, and we just couldn't make a play. 44-yard punt from Ethan Pulliam. And then Georgia gets their final score of the game on this subsequent drive. They take over with just 13 seconds to go in the 3rd quarter. It's incomplete to Noah Thomas. Then Nate Frazier runs off the right side for just 3 yards to exhaust the final seconds of the 3rd quarter. So we go to the 4th. 38-14 in favor of Georgia. And on 3rd and 7, it's complete to Branch again, right at the stick. Right at the stick. Hunter Washington, Tony Mitchell combine on the stop there. 1st and 10 from the Georgia 42. And Nate Frazier rips one off for 33 yards. 1st and 10 from the state 25. Josh McCray up the middle for 3. They flag him for holding, so now they're behind the sticks here. That does prove to be a factor in this drive. 1st and 20, Frazier for 5. 2nd and 15, they get it out to Scovey White Helton for just 2 yards. Makes it 3rd and 13. It's an incomplete to Dylan Bell. Nave Sanders on the quarterback hurry. And on 4th and 13, they kick the field goal 44 yards. It's good to make it 41-14. And again, we talk about the highlights. This second half here, we've had some drives here that haven't been great. Camario on 1st and 10 loses 4. 2nd and 14, Booth up the middle for 4 to make it 3rd and 10. They're offsides, which makes it a 3rd and 5, and then Camario is sacked. So not a great sequence here with the offensive line. 3 plays, you net 2 yards, and you get a 59-yard punt from Ethan Pulliam. And he's always got one or two of those in him. He just always seems to have one. Had a couple punts earlier, a little bit beneath his standard, but that was a really good one there. All right, 1st and 10 from the Georgia 33. Frazier off the right side for 7. On 2nd and 3, McCray up the middle for 2. And on 3rd and 1, right at the stick. Jamil Burrows makes the tackle there, but it is a 1st down by about the nose of the football. 1st and 10, Phillips runs left side. Tony Mitchell stings him for a loss there. And again, I think we'd be okay with Tony Mitchell starting against Missouri. 2nd and 14, McCray up the middle for just a pair. And on 3rd and 12, it's incomplete. Backup quarterback's in. They take a shot. It's incomplete. 4th and 2, Anthony Evans with the fair catch. And Camario puts together another good drive here. 1st and 10 from our 19. Booth up the middle for 4. 2nd and 6. Taylor keeps the middle for 18 yards. And 1st and 10, we take a shot here to Brendan Thompson. And it's caught 57 yards down to the 2-yard line. Booth gets none, and then Camario off the right side for 2 for the touchdown. And how many times have we found Brendan Thompson to the right side and just dropped it in the bucket out there? Blake's done it a couple times, and now you see Camario do it. That's just going to be a staple when you get man-to-man coverage and Brennan can get a good release. He can get loose. And anybody catching him from behind deserves a gold medal. Extra point is good. Now it's 41-21. And the final drive of the game, Georgia just kind of salts away what's left. Jeremy Bell off the right side for 9. Second one, Bo Walker left for 6. First and 10, Bo Walker again for 10. We stack him up for no gain right at midfield. Diesel Moy with the tackle there along with Jaywan Smith. Second and 10, Dwight Phillips off the left side for 10. First and 10 from our 40. Phillips again for 7. Second and 3. Walker for 6. And again, a lot of running backs getting to carry the football for Georgia. And then they just take a knee and run and just back it out. That's your ball game. Not a lot to feel good about this other than the fact that you've seen Camario play a little bit more. That just kind of excites you for what's next, right? And again, a lot of people say, you know what, Steve, the future should be now. Honestly, I think either Bulldog quarterback can go and beat Missouri. And we'll talk about them a lot more this week. But looking at some individual numbers here, well, I guess we'll start with the team numbers. Georgia with 30 first downs in the game. State with just 18. They ran for 300 yards. You're not going to win a ball game against anybody unless it's Navy or somebody like that when you give up 300 yards rushing. State rushed for $150. And if I had told you before the ball game we'd rush for $150, you'd think we were in it. We weren't. They threw for 264 yards. We threw for $173. So total offense, 567 yards of offense for Georgia. They're good. They're not that good. We got to be better. State with 322 yards of offense. Georgia punted just twice for an average of 40. State with 5 punts, averaging 45.4. Of course, that long of 59 kind of helps the numbers there a little bit. Georgia kicked off 8 times and had 7 touchbacks. State 4 kickoffs for just 2. It's part of the game, you know. Part of the game. Time of possession, 33.07 in favor of Georgia. They were 7 of 12 on third down. We're 8 of 16. And you would think, man, if we went 50% on third down and ran for about $150, we'd be in the game. We weren't. Statistics don't always work in your favor. They had 3 sacks. We had none. They only had 8 coming into the game. We knew they would get a couple. That's kind of who we are, not to be self-loathing, but that's just kind of part of the deal. We know we're going to get some sacks. Individual numbers here. Camario, 6 of 10 for 87 yards. DeLong of 57. He was sacked once. Blake was 10 of 15 for 86 yards. He was sacked twice. One of those was just an absolute, well, both of those were absolute jailbreaks. And that's the one he got a little bit banged up on. Camario, your leading rusher, 12 carries for 53 yards and 3 touchdowns. Fluff Bothwell, 9 for 44. Booth, 11 for 38. Shapen, 9 for 15. On the receiving side of things, Brennan Thompson, the Bulldogs' leading receiver, 4 for 92 yards. Sadu, 5 for 33. Anthony Evans, 4 of 27. We're not going to win many games when we can't get a receiver over 100 yards. It just ain't going to happen very often. Looking at defensive numbers, and there should be a bunch of them, right? Because Mississippi State was on the field so much more. Browlin Lanier, there was some concern last week about his availability. He leads your Bulldogs with 7 tackles. Tony Mitchell, who didn't play but about half the game, second with 6. And again, if we have to rest Isaac Smith this weekend, and I suspect we will, I think Tony Mitchell will be just fine at the star position, which is, I'm not going to do it again. Jerron Manning only plays a half, gets 6 tackles. A lot of plays by your Bulldog secondary here. Nick Mitchell with 6. Hunter Washington with 5. Jerry Bledsoe with 5. And the thing that jumps out to you here, it's just a lack of TFLs. We had 4 in the game. Tony Mitchell had 2 of them for 8 yards. Brylon Lanier, 1 for 1. Jerron Manning, 1 for 1. And that's your Bulldog secondary basically out there defending that bubble. We're just not getting much penetration along the line of scrimmage. You got to be able to stack people up. You got to be able to put that running game in reverse. But that's your ball game. And we look forward now to kind of getting into a new game week. I don't know that many people expected us to beat Georgia. You know, by the time we kick off, I'll convince myself we're going to beat anybody. That's just kind of true. I guess I'm a cockeyed optimist when it comes to Mississippi State. But in my heart of hearts, I wanted something special to happen for us. I don't know that I fully believed it. I did think it would be a close ball game, and I hoped that in that fourth quarter we'd find a way to win. This game was over at the half. That's one way to kind of negate a fourth quarter collapse if you're Kirby Smart, is to go ahead and put the game away in the second quarter. And we aided in our own demise there. And I think it's perfectly okay to say that. Georgia's better than us. But this game should have been more competitive. They're not that much better than us. Remember last year they beat us 41-31. They're not that much better than us. They have a lot more talent, a very balanced offense, and you've got to account for the quarterback run. That's the thing I begin to think about with Missouri. You don't have to consider that as much because they're down to a third-team true freshman quarterback that can't really run the football. Not to mention they don't want to run him. And so this is a great situation for us, and I fully expect to go win the ball game in Missouri. I do. And I know that may not sound like fun today on a Monday, but football's about matchups. Arkansas, not a great matchup for us, as last year showed. But we found a way to get that thing done. Georgia, not a good matchup for us. Now, Missouri wants to run the football, and they will, but they don't have the benefit of the quarterback run. Arkansas and Georgia did. You're not going to have that in Missouri. So, in some respects, it's kind of 11 on 10 in the running game. The quarterback's going to hand it off, and I think you probably change some things up this week. I think maybe even run a five-man front. I think you got to pack the box this week and force a young quarterback to go make plays. And Kevin Coleman's going to be out there. Kevin leads them in receptions but only has the one touchdown. Maybe that's a scenario where you put Kelly on him a lot. They're going to try to move him around and get him in motion, try to pair him up with a safety. But you got a young quarterback out there that's kind of feeling the pressure. We'll break a lot of that down on the Wednesday show. But I think if you're Mississippi State defensively, you got to do some things differently. You've got to dare them to throw the football. I would walk a safety up. I would absolutely pack the box because that's basically all they were able to do against A&M, and we'll break that down a little bit later in the show. So at this point, we're going to wrap up this portion of the show. We're going to come back, have a great top 10 list. We're going to talk about the weekend it was in the Diamond Dog Classic. And I hope that you were able to come out and attend that. If not, I hope you're able to do it at some point in the future because hopefully we have an opportunity to have the stars shine bright at Dudy Noble Field again. And real quickly about that, just one thing I want to say. I had a conversation earlier with somebody. I had somebody ask me this weekend out at Dudy Noble Field, Steve, how excited are you for baseball season? How excited are you for this? I said, you know what I'm most excited about? In addition to competing for national championships, going to Omaha, is I want to be hated again. And I mean absolutely hated, despised. I want people to look at Brian O'Connor and say, well, he's so clean-cut, he looks so nice, but, man, I can't stand that guy, right? I want Mississippi State baseball to be feared and to be despised around this league. I want people to say we do it the right way, but I want people planning weddings when Mississippi State is playing their college baseball team because they would rather do that than watch their team lose to us. I want to be despised on the baseball side. You look at like Tony who wore the black hat at Tennessee, and nobody could ever discount what they've done and the way they played. You may not like it, but you couldn't say they didn't win. They were great teams. But I want that same kind of mystique. I want it to be like it was in the late 80s, mid-80s, when people were like, you know what, you don't want to play Mississippi State. Those are the things that I look forward to. Time for today's top 10 list, brought to you by Calido Guitars, Calido Guitars.com. That's your guitar shop. It is. And maybe you don't realize you need one, but you do. Right? I guarantee you've got a guitar player in your friends or family group. It's time to help them, okay? Whether they need a new instrument or their first instrument, the gift of music is always an endearing gift. Maybe you can't afford to maybe buy them a new gig, and maybe you think to yourself, well, I'll just help out a little bit. You can get some accessories. You can get gig bags, cases. You can get acoustic guitars, electric guitars, and other stringed instruments at Calido Guitars. I love my Steve Vai original. I do. I love it. Love it. Reminds me of that Yankee Rose video with David Lee Roth. Love it, man. You need to make some of your own dreams come true. You work hard enough. You deserve it, right? Give yourself something to look forward to. Go peruse their website and maybe go ahead and start putting a few bucks aside and think, you know what, I'm going to do this for myself because, you know what, I do work hard, as Steve said. I do deserve it, as Steve said, and you do. Let me give you a promo code to help you. It's BSR. You know it well. That gets you a 10% discount. That gets you no sales tax unless you live in the state of Texas. That gets you no shipping. And they're going to make a 5% donation to the Bulldog Excellence Fund based on your purchase price. What a great incentive. Everybody wins. A Mississippi State-owned and operated business out of Lake Jackson, Texas wins. You win. Mississippi State wins. Wish more businesses provided that level of incentive. These are Bulldogs through and through. I love to support other Bulldogs. I hope that you feel the same way. Again, visit them at KalitoGuitars.com. A lot of guitars in today's top 10 list. You know, we did some rap stuff the other day and got a few comments about it. But we're back on the rock today. We're playing Missouri this weekend. We're going to do Rock of Missouri. Now, a lot of alternative rock out of Missouri. I got some good friends in a band out of Missouri too, so you can guess who's number one. But we're going to start, this is kind of a one-hit wonder. They had a couple other songs, but this is the one that we know them by. And your good friend and host used to play the harmonica fairly regularly as I crack open a Coke Zero. Enjoy. It's the Ozark Mountain Daredevils. If you want to get to heaven, you got to raise a little hell. And honestly, that's one of the songs that inspired me to pick up that instrument in the first place. Love that track, man. Thought we'd get the list going on a song you may know, but if you don't know it, man, it'll get you hopping. Number 9, this band, kind of a one-hit wonder too, and in many respects, kind of in the same vein as Trent Reznor. They were an industrial act that sound a lot like Nine Inch Nails, but it's Gravity Kills, and the song is Guilty. That's your number 9 track today. Number 8. This is a band that's very different. They're kind of genre bending, right? You can hear a little bit of like Sum 41 in there. So it's like they're kind of alternative rock. They kind of do some traditional stuff too, but they're very much alternative. It's hard to really put a label on them. We're talking story of the year, and we're going to go with the great track Until the Day I Die. It's a love song at its core. I think you'll have some fun with that. Number 7. This is a little different. It's The Urge, Jump Right In. And you should. Number 6, I like this one a lot. Now, they didn't have a huge following. They were kind of a college band that kind of got going. I think you're going to have fun with these guys. It's White Rabbits, and the song is Percussion Gun, and it's very much a percussive song, too. A lot of great percussion. If you like that sort of thing, this could be yours. Number 5, this is going back to the 60s. A lot of bluegrass and that sort of stuff in the mix with these guys. It's the Dillards, and we're going to go with the track Dooley. Dooley, number 5. Number 4, a band that I would suspect that you haven't heard much from. You probably don't even know these guys, but when you listen to them, you're going to think it sounds really familiar, and it does. It does. They kind of have their own unique sound, but you can hear a lot of their influences. For those of you that like the old 120 minutes alternative rock genre, this is going to scratch you right where you itch. It's The Front. Could have gone a lot of different directions here. I went with the track Fire. It's not a cover of the Jimi Hendrix song Fire, but it's kind of got its own spark. Pardon the pun. Number 3, a band that I saw open for Shinedown a few years ago, several years ago now, getting old. Like these guys a lot. We've talked about them on the show before, and it was our gateway song to the band Cavo out of St. Louis, Missouri, and it's Champagne. And if you don't know it, you should. It could have been the champagne. It could have been the cocaine. It could have been the way she looked at me that told me we were through. But it's basically like the end of a relationship, and the guy is okay with it. Now, a lot of people would have this band number 1. I've got them number 2 because I've got a personal bias for number 1. But it's the great band Puddle of Mudd. And I remember when they hit the scene with Blurry, everybody was like, dude, where has this been? This is great. And then they followed it up with the great track. It's anthemic, man. Everybody sings it. It's a big karaoke track. It's She Hates Me from Puddle of Mud. La 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 la. Very clever songwriting. Now, they've been a mess over the years. I remember going to see them at the Lander Center in South Haven on the Carnival of Madness tour, and they didn't even show. Found out later there was an incident. But I guess we saw Whiskey Myers and Chevelle and Shinedown. We didn't get Puddle of Mud. But, yeah, still a great show. Check out the fine folks at the Lander Center. A lot of bands now going there instead of going to Memphis proper. But number one, you know it well. It's the Pet Shop. No, it's not the Pet Shop Boys. It's Shaman's Harvest. And my buddy Josh, rhythm guitar player in the band, loved those guys. Hit him up a while back before I went to Como for baseball to see if they were in town. They actually were in the studio rehearsing for the new album. I think you're going to enjoy them. I do. We're going to go back to the song that kind of made them famous. It's Dragonfly. There's two versions of it. There's the acoustic version, laid-back version on Smoking Hearts and Broken Guns. But if you go back to Shine, that's the original. And Josh kind of told me the story about this. I think he said they were in Minnesota or Wisconsin, somewhere up there. And so they were just driving along there, and Nate kind of found the riff, the opening riff. And he said they all kept kind of repeating zombie, 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 so they wouldn't forget it. And then they get to the rehearsal studio, or maybe it was just sound check, and they decided to kind of work on it a little bit. And then Josh hit that big guitar part, the big part, you know what I'm talking about. If you know the song, you know it well. And but those guys, let me tell you, they're just like all of us. They're just a bunch of Southerners living in Jeff City, Missouri. And Josh told me back this spring, do me a favor, go to Shakespeare's Pizza and tell them I sent you. I went, and it was great, and I'll go back this trip. Matter of fact, Jacob Bainey and I are kind of planning our Saturday around going to Shakespeare's Pizza en route to the football game. So if you're going to go take it in and you're unfamiliar, arguably some of the best pizza in the United States, Shakespeare's Pizza at all places, Columbia, Missouri. There is a Shakespeare's Pizza in Jefferson City, and I'll probably go to that one. It's only a few miles away, but I'll probably go to that one just because that's Josh's place. He doesn't own it. That's just where he goes. And I love those guys. And the thing, like every time that Dana and I have gone to see Shaman's Harvest, every single time, Josh will walk up to Dana and say, okay, Dana, what are we playing? What are we playing? And she'll always pick like a deep track or whatever. It's typically Strike the Slate that they play for her. Sometimes she's asked for Destination Nowhere, but for some reason Nate doesn't want to play that one anymore. But that's just the kind of band they are. I remember we saw them one time in Little Rock, Arkansas, and I can't remember who all was on the bill. I know Aranda was on the bill and a few other bands, but we got to go to soundcheck and everything and just kind of watch it all unfold, and it was great all the way through. The great show. Shaman's always puts on a great show. I think we figured out we've seen them in 6 states. I think that's right. 6 or 7 states. And you know what? If I could make it up there in time on Friday and they were playing, I'd go see them again. I love these guys, and if you like Southern rock, modern Southern rock, you need to know Shaman's Harvest. And one of my favorite albums of all time is Smoking Hearts and Broken Guns. I could listen to it in its entirety. We probably should update our Shaman's list. We probably should. We hadn't done that in a long time. Maybe we'll do that soon. Maybe I'll do that this week since we're going up there. But Rock and Roll Queen came out earlier this year. This is a standalone single. But I dig it, man. And probably my favorite song off the Rebelator album from 2022 is probably Lilith. A lot of people like Bird Dog. Voices is good too, but I think Lilith is probably my favorite one. But if I'm trying to turn you on to these guys, because it took a little while, like for them to kind of find their sound. But when they got into Shine, they kind of really knew who they were. And then Smoking Hearts and Broken Guns is just phenomenal. Red Hands and Black Deeds, also a great one. I remember Josh telling me when they got ready to record that album, is they got ideas. Instead of saying, okay, well, we're going to do what fits here, he said we went in the complete opposite direction. We wanted to make it different than anything else we've ever done. They did, And there's some still, some stuff that's kind of true to Shamans. The Come Up, of course, was the lead single off that album. The Devil in Our Wake is great. Off the Tracks is a lot of fun. And I love Tuscan Bone. Nate wrote that song. He and I talked about that at Rocklahoma a few years ago. I said, I got to know who wrote it. And he gets grand, and he goes, that was me. And he goes, I had to kind of fight a little bit to get it on the record. I love that song. I love it. It's one of those songs, too, you begin to think, what are they going to play at your funeral? That may be one of them. But I love these guys, and they're not just incredible musicians. They're great people. And they're my age. Nate, I guess, is a couple years younger than me and Drake and Josh. But I think that you will have a lot of fun with Shaman's Harvest. I remember when we were talking about doing Rock Vegas 2, I bet I had 100 people said, Steve, could you get Shaman's Harvest to Starkville for Rock Vegas 2? And we were talking to some other acts because we couldn't make the dates work. But maybe someday we can get Shamans to come play a show in Starkville. I know some people, right? I know some people that would love to come to Mississippi and play a show. And I've told Josh many times before, man, if you guys are just passing through and you got a spare day and you just need somewhere to park the bus and wash some clothes and get a warm meal, we got you. We got you. And again, I absolutely love these guys as people and as musicians. And that's one of the cool things. There are a lot of people out there that got cool jobs, right? A lot of people are just like us. And, Josh and Nate and those guys, that's just who they are. They're just great dudes. Great dudes. And every time I see Josh, he says, well, he goes, I'm glad to see you're still with me. I said, what do you mean? And he goes, man, you and I are making homeless look cool one day at a time. There's some truth in that. But nevertheless, that's your top 10 list. If you have ideas for the top 10 list, reach out, let us know. The best way to do that is to hit up Roy Samonte on X at Dogmatic67. You can find me on all forms of social media at Scout Steve R. And if you want to find our great list on Spotify, you can find it under Roy's handle, Dogmatic67, DAWGMATIC 67. And just so you know, too, if you ask the bride, she'll tell you the same thing. You need to know Shaman's Harvest. You need to. You absolutely need to. I think, again, start there at kind of the peak, with Smoking Hearts and Broken Guns, and then you kind of branch out a little bit. I think you're going to have fun with these guys. All right, next segment of the show brought to you by Campus Bookmart, a Starkvillian institution. Man, we love Campus Bookmart. We do. We love them. We don't just like them. We love them. We don't just like them as a friend. We love them more than a friend because they've always been there for us. Christmas now, about 6 weeks away. Mom, you've kind of let it sneak up on you. I've done my best to help you. Go ahead and kind of get caught up with your Christmas shopping. Visit Campus Bookmart when you come in town for the Egg Bowl. If you can't make it for that game, or maybe you're not going to be back in Starkville between now and Christmas, visit them on the World Wide Web at campusbookmart.net. Again, that's campusbookmart.net. And by being a loyal Boneyard listener, we'll give you a phrase that pays. It's BSR, which gets you free shipping on all orders over $75. Any order less than $75, absolutely incomplete. We need apparel. We need other gift ideas. We need stuff to detail out our fan cave. You can find it all at Campus Bookmart. I encourage you to stick with the winners. Stick with people that know what true maroon looks like. And that's our family at Campus Bookmart. All right, let's take a look back at the weekend that was, and then we'll kind of get into some things that Jeff Levy said. Mississippi State's opponent for this week, Missouri, gets hammered by Texas A&M 38-17. And it was a game for a while. It was 7-0 until late in the second quarter. A&M causes a big fumble. They grab it out of the air and then return it in the 10-yard line. They make it a 14-0 game at the break, and then from there it kind of got away from Missouri. They're going to have trouble scoring. A&M also hit a big fake punt. They win the game 38-17. It could have easily been 45. They elected to take a knee late. But Missouri having trouble scoring. We'll talk a little more about them later in the week. But as mentioned earlier in the show, you got to be careful when you're running the third-team quarterback out there because you no longer have any depth. So you're not going to do a lot of quarterback design runs anyway. That's not really his game. Because in the event that he gets hurt, what are you going to do, play the rest of the season with a walk-on? That's a possibility. They're 6-3 right now, and some of their fans are saying, you know what, we could be 6-6 when it's all said and done. I got no beef with Missouri. I want to beat them this week, and then we'll kind of see what happens. But, I'm looking forward to previewing that. We'll probably do your Wednesday show on Tuesday night. But just looking at what Missouri has left, they host Mississippi State, then road trips to Oklahoma, road trip to Arkansas. They could be 6-6. They absolutely could be. Could be. And I remember a few years back, we kind of saw it coming, that they would find a way to beat Arkansas. But going on the road, senior day, a lot of emotions. And I can tell you that post game on Saturday, they were dejected. They were still believing they still had an opportunity to get to the playoffs. They were dejected. I'm eager to see what they come out and look like this week. All right, Alabama beats LSU 20-9. LSU is currently 5-4. And I thought Garrett Nussmeier had a terrible game. And Jacob Bain's not a big fan of the beard either. And Jacob, a bearded one himself, much more so than me. Bain's like, he needs to do something with that beard. I said, why don't you tweet at him and tell him? But LSU, there's only one sure win left on the schedule. They'll host Arkansas this week. And Arkansas can score. Then they get Western Kentucky. They should be able to out-athlete them, and then they go to Oklahoma. But, man, if you're LSU, you're starting to look at this and wonder if you're going to make a bowl game. It's true. You get Western Kentucky, so you feel like, okay, yeah, they should be 6-6 when the dust settles. And LSU fans like to get out of town and go drink some beer with other people and that kind of stuff, but they're not going to be a great bowl team. They're not going to be a team I think that's going to sell a ton of tickets. Alabama, again, just kind of quietly going about their business. So many people kind of left them for dead after they lost to Florida State. They haven't lost since then. They haven't been especially impressive offensively, but they're getting things done. And they win this game 20-9. And again, the LSU-Alabama game has been one of the most watched games in recent history in SEC football. Not a lot of luster to this one. You know all about Georgia and Mississippi State. Of course, Ole Miss takes care of the Citadel 49-0. I think the highlight of this one, or maybe the only newsworthy thing, is Lane Kiffin kind of trolling Mississippi State at halftime. That they talk about us living rent-free, or them living rent-free in our heads. The head football coach talking about us on TV, and people are like, oh, this is so cute. And remember, it's only toxic when we win. I'm looking forward to being toxic again. Vanderbilt, 45-38 winners over Auburn. If you had a chance to watch the end of that game, Diego Pavia is a real dude. I mean, you don't need me to tell you that. This is a real thing with Vanderbilt. You talk about a kid that kind of wills people along. In many respects, it's kind of like Dak. Dak kind of willed Mississippi State along. That's how this thing looks with Vanderbilt. They're now 8-2. 8-2. Auburn dips to 4-6. They got Mercer coming up in Alabama, so you feel like they'll get one more. But you know as well as I do, Alabama's going to go in there looking to blow them out. It'll be interesting to see, what Auburn has left in the tank by the time Alabama gets there. Again, it's senior day. It's Iron Bowl day. They'll be up. But looking at Vanderbilt, they're going to host Kentucky this week and then travel to Tennessee. So a 9-win season looks to be probable. Maybe not as, I don't know, maybe looking back in hindsight, maybe we didn't give Vandy enough credit. Now, they'll get Florida, they'll get Kentucky, who just destroyed Florida 38-7. Florida led 7-3 in that ball game after one. And then from there, it's all Kentucky. It is abundantly clear to anybody who watched that game, the Florida kids have quit. They have quit. DJ Lagway is still expected to be the starter when they play Ole Miss. They sat him some last week and just couldn't get anything going in the second half. But Kentucky now 4-5. And you think about Kentucky's remaining schedule, Vanderbilt and Louisville, and they could possibly get, I guess they got one more in there somewhere. They still got a pot. They're 4-5 with 3 to play. Yeah, Tennessee Tech, that's a dub. So they will be 5-5, and then need to get a win on the road to get bowl eligible. I don't think either of those are going to be easy. But, so Kentucky made us all look silly last week. And what's Kentucky won 2 in a row now? I think that's right. Stoops, again, not going to be fired this year. And a good close would make it a lot easier. All right, looking ahead to this week, and then we'll get into some of Jeff Lebby's comments from today. South Carolina goes to A&M. The spread in this game is 19.5 for A&M. South Carolina plays pretty decent defense. I don't think the Gamecocks have any chance of winning this game. I do think they have a chance to cover. We'll revisit that on Friday. Man, Arkansas is going to LSU. That's going to be an 11:45 game. Do you ever remember an Arkansas and LSU game being this inconsequential? I bet you don't. Arkansas now 2-7, LSU 5-4, and we don't know, the health of Taylor Green yet. I guess we'll see. Reading some social media traffic a week ago, you'd have thought he died, but apparently he did not. But that's going to be an interesting game. We know what Tennessee Tech and Kentucky looks like, but give Tennessee Tech a little credit here. I don't know if you've kind of kept up with Golden Eagle football this year. I know you kept up with Southern Miss. What a good year those guys are having. Guys, Tennessee Tech's undefeated. Did you know that? Yeah, they're undefeated. Undefeated. And really haven't had many close games. These guys can score. They had a 21-9 win over at Eastern Illinois last week. Now, granted, they haven't played many people. They played like Cumberland and Chattanooga. They put up 72 on Davidson, and it's not a basketball score. But these guys can score a little bit. But, you got to think Kentucky's got to get that game. But there's no line, obviously, because it's an FCS game. But would you be surprised to find out that Tennessee Tech's quarterback is thrown 22 touchdowns against 4 picks this year? Wouldn't it be something if Tennessee Tech beat Kentucky? Wouldn't it be great? I mean, honestly, like if we're not involved, but just like for the love of the game, wouldn't it be great to see an FCS team beat Kentucky? You can get a ticket for about $10. Oklahoma's at Alabama. That's your marquee game of the week. Tied favorite by about 6.5 points. Ty Simpson, of course, doing a great job taking care of the football. Just 1 interception. I thought he was really good against LSU. The numbers may not fully reflect that, but this guy, Ty Simpson, knows how to manage the offense. So Oklahoma 7-2. Still, I guess, an outside shot to make the playoffs, but it's going to be interesting. New Mexico State's 3-6 there at Tennessee. Tennessee favored by about 40. The Aggies, kind of playing out the string. But, you wonder, does Tennessee call off the Dogs late? It's going to be maybe a tough cover. We'll see. Florida's at Ole Miss. Of course, again, I think Florida's quit. Ole Miss, again, trending toward the playoff. I don't think there's any question about it, right? I mean, you would need them to lose the next 2 to not expect them to make the playoffs. Now, granted, the schedule's worked in their favor, and again, for a while, the biggest win they had was over LSU. Well, then they get the win over Oklahoma. So not necessarily a marquee schedule for Ole Miss, but they don't pick the conference games. They just take care of business. And again, I think this is Lane Kiffin's best coaching job. Texas at Georgia. That'll be a great primetime game. Maybe you can flip back and forth between us and Mizzou during commercial breaks, or maybe TiVo that, and we used to call it TiVo or DVR. But Texas and Georgia, homestanding Bulldogs, favored by just under a touchdown. Texas coming off the open date. Georgia had no problem at all with the trap game at Mississippi State. Of course, Bulldogs at Missouri. The Tigers favored by 6.5. Now, which leads us into today's comments. Jeff Lebby did not have maybe a great endorsement about the health of Blake Shapen. Blake did not practice today, so we'll see how the week goes. My honest opinion is I would just start Camario. And there's a couple reasons why. Number one, I think he has provided a spark for us. And if you give him the full benefit of first-team reps this week, I have no doubt that he'll be ready. This is a very good Missouri defense, especially on the ends. You're going to need a more mobile quarterback, and I think Camario's a guy that can step up in the pocket and make them pay. But also, too, I think it kind of adds some mystery to Ole Miss's defensive game plan in 2 weeks. Let's say Camario starts this week. That gives Blake 2 weeks to get healthy, and that gives Camario 2 weeks to work some more first-team reps and give Ole Miss something else to prepare for. We got to go win this ball game, though. I fully expect to win the game because I think Missouri's going to struggle to score. They struggled to protect him last week. Now, granted, that A&M front is very, very good. But the Camario thing, I think, in some respects, adds a little bit of optimism, and then maybe in the same case, a little bit of pessimism. On the road, sellout crowd against a team that may be a little bit dejected, but they're still trying to play, for good bowl positioning. A lot of pressure for a freshman. But as Fluff Bothwell said today, Camario is not the typical freshman. He has a mental toughness that is kind of beyond his years. If you told Camario today you're going to start, I guarantee you he is going to work extremely hard this week to rally the team around him. And then the question kind of becomes, too, like if Camario starts and we go and win this game, what do you do in the Egg Bowl? Well, I think if in that respect, the open date and the fact that you've had two quarterbacks that have done some good things at times gives you an advantage. Because Ole Miss doesn't know who you're going to start. And listen, everybody says we run the same offense, but play calling is different when Camario's in the game. You guys see that. You don't need to be an offensive analyst to know that. But Blake didn't practice. Camario did. Luke Kromenhoek, of course, is still around, getting his redshirt year in. And, does that factor into any of this stuff? Down the stretch? Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. But we all know that Camario is the future. And if Blake's going to be less than 100%, I think you start Camario. And if you get in a scenario where you need to pull him, then you can always go to Shapen. But I think in this game, the running game is going to be important. Marcel Reed didn't really run it much against Missouri last week until the fourth quarter. Owens and those guys really got things rolling and then kind of softened the defense up. Camario, obviously, is a guy at times done some great things. And there's some other times, too, he's looked like a freshman. And there's going to be some up and down with young guys. But I fully expect that to be the case. I think Camario will probably end up starting. And I think it's a good thing. Again, if Blake was 100% healthy and you felt like you could protect him, especially against a team like Missouri that we don't think is going to be able to score, it makes some sense. Now, the other side of that is when you look at what Camario has done in his offensive possessions and the frequency in which we have put the ball in the end zone, you begin to think, hey, we're able to get some early separation in this game, maybe be up a couple scores at the half. You kind of get them out of their game plan a bit, especially if you go up 17, 21 points. Wouldn't that be amazing, right? And then you put the pressure in the lap of that true freshman quarterback on their side. And watching him play, and he may be good at some point. He's not there yet. And I suspect if you played a game and we're all picking teams and you watch the highlight film of both of these guys, 99% of you are going to pick Camario. And you should. So that's what we're going to plan. We'll find out more later in the week, but I do expect Camario Taylor to start. And Jeff Lebby stopped short of saying that. But I think my own competitive nature, I wouldn't have said anything. Now, the availability report comes out on Wednesday, so there's only so much you can hide. But Monday and Tuesday are game planning days. I don't know that I would have said anything today. I would have said, you know what, we're going to see how things go this week, and then we'll let the availability report speak for us. We say that most weeks. I think this has been a good week to do that because you kind of tip your hand a little bit. And there have been some people that have played some gamesmanship with the availability report. So we'll see how things go. All right, final segment of the show brought to you by the Stark Vegas Clubhouse, the best place to stay in the Golden Triangle if you're bringing a large group to town, and you should. You've always thought about how cool it would be to have everybody under one roof because it's the in-between times that mean so much. Let me encourage you to make that dream a reality. Google the Stark Vegas Clubhouse. When you do, their Facebook page will auto-populate. You have the opportunity to peruse all the pictures of all the amenities available to you and your guests. Full-service kitchen, wet bar, back porch area, fire pit area, plenty of parking, 6 bedrooms, 2, soon-to-be 3 baths, just 5 minutes away from the Mississippi State campus. You can do your tailgating right there. And perhaps you got some vacation time to spend between now and the end of the year. Why not take some midweek vacation time and go spend a couple of midweek nights in your favorite town, Starkville, and go check out some men's and women's basketball? Yeah, maybe you hadn't thought about that aspect of it. Maybe you think it's only a weekend deal, but no, the Stark Vegas Clubhouse open 365. Now, when you Google Stark Vegas Clubhouse, some booking options are going to appear. You can go Airbnb, you can go VRBO if you choose to. But if you want to save some money, book through the Evolve website. Promo code BSR10. That's BSR10. Gets you 10% off your stay. And I'm the attitude, if it's free, it's me. And if it's discounted, well, count me in. The Stark Vegas Clubhouse, the best place to stay in the Golden Triangle. Tonight, we will have a men's basketball game. We're in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. Is that right? Taking on Iowa State. Not exactly sure what to expect in this game. Not sure. We'll see. It's a good early test. This could be one of those ones you look back later and say, you know what, that's a net climber for us. But you drilled North Alabama in the second half. It was quite a game the first half, not so much the second half. And so neutral floor game. Not sure how many of our Bulldogs are living in the greater South Dakota area. Hopefully you can turn out and be a part of that and go support the team. It's always a great thing when you do. But looking at men's basketball for Iowa State, obviously they've been a very solid mid-major for a long time. Currently 2-0 on the season. They won a couple of exhibition games. They beat FDU, I guess that's Fairleigh Dickinson, in Ames, Iowa. I guess they played them at home. Beat them 88-50, and then they blasted Grand Point State 102-62. So again, I don't know what we know about the Cyclones at this point. It's too early to tell. I don't know what we know about the Bulldogs. Maybe too early to tell. But we do know that Milan Makovic, I think we got that right, has done a good job for them, averaging 20 points a game. Joshua Jefferson pitching in 17. Tamin Lipsey with 14. But they've got 4 double-digit scores through 2 games. So again, we'll see. It's still too early to tell. Your Mississippi State women's basketball team advanced to 2-0 just yesterday against Mississippi Valley State. No real pomp and circumstance with that one. It went pretty much as expected. Lady Bulldogs now 3-0. Very busy first 6 days, I guess maybe a week. Yeah, but first 6 days of the schedule. You take down Davidson, you get Georgia State as part of Education Day, and then a 107-43 victory over Valley. They'll play Jackson State on November 13th. So that's this Thursday. So if you're in the greater Starkville area, come out and be a part of that. Then we'll hit the road for the first time, should be with a 4-0 record, heading to Texas Tech. That's a real test for us, then back home against Alcorn State. So some big things happening. And then just moments ago, the Mississippi State soccer team, and I'm trying to pull up here now, that at 3 o'clock today they had the announcement show. And I don't guess maybe they've announced us yet. Let me just take a look here. Soccer selection show. Yeah, there we go. We'll pull it up and just kind of see what they got to say. Let's just see here so we can get an update on the bracket here. Hopefully I can click this and it won't be loud for you guys because I know some of you are still working. So we'll get that taken care of. Let's see here. Let's look at the bracket live updates. Let's see. Yeah, so we're going to be, so Lipscomb will be, is this right? Yeah, Lipscomb will be traveling to Mississippi State. So we will host again in this round. Lipscomb, we're in the Notre Dame region. So Lipscomb at Mississippi State. They beat us a few years ago, you may recall, here in an NCAA tournament game. So your Bulldogs are number 6 seed. I'm trying to find the bracket here just to see how it all kind of works out here. And we're doing this on the fly. We're doing it on the fly. We'll do it live. A lot of people write these articles and they just put a bunch of words. They don't ever really give you what you want. I'd like to see the bracket, but nevertheless, it appears Mississippi State in the NCAA tournament. Let's see if we can't just get a little more information on the Twitters. On the Twitters. Let's see here. So much comes at you these days. You know how it goes. There's just a lot out there. All right, Hell State Soccer. Yeah, tourney time at Stark Vegas, Dogs versus Lipscomb. We're hosting. We're the number 6 seed, top left part of the bracket. And again, even this NCAA bracket, not available. So maybe it'll be up here shortly. So if you're planning to be a part of it for the 4th year in a row, you'll be able to see an NCAA tournament game for Mississippi State. So we encourage you to come out and be a part of that. A lot of good things happening with Mississippi State sports, one of which was the Diamond Dog Classic on Friday night. For those of you that attended, I think you'll agree with me, it was a very special night. And some have said, Steve, if we do it every year, it'll kind of lose its luster. And, that's kind of what happened the first time we had the alumni games under the Polk year. If we do it every couple years, 2-3 years. But eventually the fans just kind of quit coming. Now, we didn't have this grand cathedral of a stadium back then. Game day wasn't back then what it is now. Not to say that we haven't always enjoyed our baseball. But we're in a scenario now where we can make it an event. It was so good to see Jake Mangum run out there and take center field, and Tanner Allen legging out a triple. It was a lot of great things. Connor Powers hit a home run. Hunter Renfro. I mean, it was great. But I think part of the fun for me was just being in the stands. I don't get to do that very often. Went out in the lounge. I wasn't actually in the stands, but not to be on press row. And it took me basically the full 6-7 innings to get around the lounge because there were so many people I wanted to talk to. Wrote about that yesterday, but it was basically a homecoming of sorts. It was an opportunity for us to celebrate Mississippi State baseball. In addition to that, we raised a few $100,000 in NIL money. And as we discussed last week, that's kind of where we are now. People are happy to come attend a game that benefits NIL. They're more likely to do that than they are just write you a check. There's some people that can, but a lot of people want to get something in return. We had the Savannah Bananas game, raised a bunch of money. Then we did the alumni game, raised a bunch of money. The thing that I think about now is if it works so well for this, because we don't have real pro sports teams in Mississippi, as you guys know. We're all about our college teams. What if we had a basketball game where we brought back play, maybe even do a doubleheader, and have the men play a game and the women play a game? What if we did that? Do you think you'd be willing to come for that? Let's say Dante Jones played or Darrell Wilson, some great players. Bart, I could promise you Bart could still play. But if we put some players out there that were notable for you guys, would you want to come see a doubleheader for basketball? We can always use more NIL money for basketball. What if we did, a flag football event for football? I don't think anybody out there wants to go tackle these days. Would you be willing to come pay for that? Yeah, I don't know. But we could do some things that are eventful. Now, I don't know if we can pull off anything quite as extravagant as baseball, but you got to put your thinking cap on these days when you're out there trying to grab third-party dollars for revenue as often as you can. We have a very devoted fan base. It doesn't always appear that way, but we do, especially for certain sports. And so the more of these things we can do, you wonder, does it water it down or does it add to the coffers in a major way? I suspect, especially on the basketball side, if you put together a game like that, an NIL game, and played a doubleheader, or maybe even had the men and women play against each other, I don't know. I think you could have some fun. But I think you'd have to do it together. So I think this is where I think Zach Selman is maybe ahead of the curve with this baseball alumni game. And there's a lot of people behind the scenes, Bart Gregory and Joel Coleman and Logan Lowry, that all had a hand in kind of bringing all this together. They are to be commended for their efforts. The thing that I think about is when we have events like this, everybody has to pull in the same direction. And that's not something that we excel at. Now, we have a core group of our fans that are always going to be there for us, and there are others that are somewhat peripheral. But I think for all the people that had the opportunity to attend on Friday, you want to come back. We ran some content from some of the media opportunity with players from before the game on yesterday. We'll have a little bit more later in the week. But it's one of these things, anytime that we can celebrate Mississippi State, whether it's a regular season game, an alumni game, an exhibition game, anytime that we can kind of come together as a family and just kind of celebrate the things that we agree upon, it's a great thing. Now, if we get everybody together in a focus group, we start talking about, logos and radio and visitors and things of that nature, chances of us all agreeing are probably pretty slim. But we all agree that we need to do some things to increase our competitive advantage in the NIL space. And I guarantee you this time next year, you're going to find out about a lot of college baseball programs around the country. They're going to have an alumni game and try to raise money for baseball. So maybe perhaps that is something that you consider kind of moving forward. But I'm excited to think that Zach Selman and his staff are already thinking about what's next. We're all talking about how great it was. They are too, but they're also thinking about what else could we do to improve our standing. And that's good leadership. That's the things that matter, is finding ways to generate revenue where people feel like they had a great experience, and then your student athletes and your coaches benefit from that. Great idea, great execution. It was a blast. And if you know anybody that went, they'll tell you the same. You had the little meet and greet and that kind of stuff, and people had to pay for that sort of stuff. But a lot of pictures, a lot of autographs, and the smiles on the faces of those players, absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing. And appreciate everybody that made it happen and all of you that turned out to attend. If you hadn't done so, go to dutynoblebook.com. You get signed copies of all of my books there, all but the poetry book. Limited quantities of that still exist, but you can get Flim Flam, Stark Villains, Alpha Dogs, Dogpile, When the Bottom Falls, and The Dude, of course, and get that for Christmas. And listen, we got a Black Friday sale coming up. You can go ahead and buy some packages at True Rest Float Spa of Starkville. Had a really, really busy weekend. We expect a really, really busy week next week. So if you're in the area this week, now's probably a good time to float, especially this weekend. The team will be out of town. You'll be looking for things to do to bide your time until the Bulldogs take the field in Como. So floating's a good idea. If you're a person that suffers with chronic anxiety or pain, we may be able to help you. We've helped many others. Dial 662-268-7601. You can speak directly to my wife, Dana, and she can answer any questions you may have. She's a registered nurse for 20 years or so she has some expertise that maybe some others do not. We believe in floating. It's made our lives better. We believe it could make yours too. I would tell people all the time, I don't have to sell you on anything. It's got to get you in the pod once. And then from there, you'll be like, you know what? I need this in my life. Come join us over at genespage.com, the premier Mississippi State media entity. And we'll be in Como again this week. And, last big road trip of the regular season. We look forward to hopefully having a bowl trip somewhere, and we'll be covering that too. It's something we take very seriously. We love what we do, but we understand we have a responsibility to all of you. We're not just going to take a trip just to go have dinner with the rest of the media. We could do that here in Starkville. But we will take in some Shakespeare's Pizza while we're in Como. Thank you guys so much for your support of the show, support of the website, the books. I'll be at the 120 Club tonight for those of you that are part of that, and look forward to seeing you all there. Until next time, let's all live our lives in a way we make more friends and enemies, and people can see a difference in the way we live.